I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Airport Commission. We have a quorum, we have three of us. Adjustments to the agenda. Since we have some people here that want to talk about hangars, I was thinking we could move up the hangar development workshop part to the front.
Sure. I have invited the town's planner, consultant planner in, and when he shows up, I'll let him into the meeting.
Okay.
He has some of the information about FAA and that sort of thing as we get regards to hangars.
Okay, so we'll move that up to into number 9. Is that what we do, or?
So you can move it up to now if you'd like.
Okay, is that okay? We can move it up to now then? We'll just do that and just start.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so go ahead and introduce.
So Mark Blaze.
Mark Blake, yeah, I'm on the airport board in the city of Auburn. I represent Lewiston because Lewiston and Auburn both co-own the airport. So very involved with hangar development and airport development. Also, I just finished 3 hangars in Carrabassett, which was a really nice project. The Carrabassett actually did the infrastructure. So the only thing left was actually to build the box hangars. And that was a pretty easy process to go through. They just got these people to sign a lease, and I'm not sure exactly what the lease documents are, but yeah, it went very quickly. They got 3 hangars done within a year and a half.
Our box hangers?
Box hangars, yes. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Jim?
I was wondering if they were box.
Box hangers.
So the town of Carrabassett actually, when they did the site plan, they laid out 60 by 60 hangars. So somebody wouldn't come in and just put like a garage hangar. They wanted, a little more than that. I'm assuming they would have allowed like a 50 by 60 or, somewhere in that area, but not bigger, because then it would affect the other boundaries that they had to maintain. So obviously you want to get the biggest, hangar you can. And 60 by 60 is a pretty useful hangar.
What's Larry's hanger?
We were just talking about that. There's
I
70 by
think
70.
Greg and Larry's are maybe 70 deep and probably about 60 wide.
Okay.
I think they're a little bit deeper than they are wide.
That makes sense. So I think for me, what brought us to this point is that, we have this, I think one of the nicest rural airports in the state of Maine, really. Really, how big is Carrabassett? How long is Carrabassett?
I believe it's 2,800 feet.
And I feel it's a shame that it's sitting there and we're not using it, to the best of our ability, so it would be nice to see some sort of activity up there. I think that's why we're at this point right now. So that's at least my opinion. You, John?
I agree. I think it's a languishing asset. It's something that ever since the passing of Steve Beam has been slowly eroding, and it's something that I think would be a genuine pearl of the community. So it's something that would bring in money to the town. It would bring in the type of people we want to visit. It would bring in a lot of industry as well. So,
no, I'm not a businessman, so I don't know if we ever could make money on doing something with hangars here, but I'd like to at least explore the option. Mark?
Our airport master layout plan has areas laid out for hangars. So that part of it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
And we have hangar leases drawn, T-hangar leases drawn up, and conventional hangar leases drawn up as well.
something that Mark was talking about too. Mark Blaze said that AOPA is able to do impact studies.
Yeah, I've done some research on it before. It's been a few years now. When I first got onto the airport board in Auburn, they have they have a lot of contacts. If you talk to the representative, whoever that is right now, for this area or Maine, they can give you contacts for who does those type of studies, where those studies are from, or, you know, that kind of thing. I do remember, MIT did a study, on all airports, and, they established that, when the airports do the infrastructure, it's a lot easier for private industry to come in and take over and actually build the hangars and stuff like that. It actually showed a huge economic impact of the whole community. You know, whether it's fuel sales or car rentals or restaurants, or it's pretty big. I know the Auburn Airport has been in decline. Well, I'm gonna take credit, because since I got on the airport, it's has turned around, and any given Saturday, there's 5 or 6 people going to Bates College because of some sports event or whatever. And that brings money in for, you know, the restaurants, the hotels, and they actually couldn't even get a cab. I drove 2 couples to the Hilton downtown. Now we have a courtesy car, but, you know, so I mean, I couldn't give you all the numbers. I'm not an accountant. I don't do public, you know, surveys like that, but there are surveys out there that would, you know, give you the real time numbers based upon. The other thing is, the more flights you record, that makes you more eligible for more FAA money, which kind of helps out with the infrastructure thing. And the whole point is to try to be self-sufficient and not be a burden on the taxpayer. And these things have a return on investment. So it may seem like, you know, the taxpayer is paying to build this, but if you can return that investment, it actually lessens the burden on the taxpayer over time.
And how about federal funds? How do federal funds get involved? Do they have anything to do with hangar building or no?
So Auburn right now is actually building a 10-unit T hangar. We have a meeting, I believe it's on the 15th, to approve the contract to move ahead. And that was, Jared Golden helped with that funding. We got a hold of him, and he came up to the airport and saw that it needed some, you know, influx of cash. And so we wrote a grant, and it passed. Now, the original grant was for a big box hangar. But then we lost, Elite was doing heavy light jet service, and they kind of went bankrupt. So now we have this big box hangar. So we actually morphed the box hangar grant into T hangars, because we could make a case that there's more of a need for the T hangars. So we actually got the money, and then we kind of transformed it into T hangars, which is, you know, better use. And the only thing you have to be careful for is that if you have private industry that invest in T hangars, and then you have the federal government, you can actually lower your monthly costs for the tenants in this one, because you have an unfair advantage, right? Where the other ones have a, you know, a certain capital to recover from. So you have to be careful with the T hangar thing. I was not really in favor of that, but what we did is we took that money and we developed 2 other pad sites. So there'll be 3, and we put the federal one as far as we could. So all the taxiways and all of that stuff would be all done for the other 2, which would allow private industry to come in for less expense, less capital investment. So. They also have, there's another gentleman that was interested in a bigger box hangar. And so that was different from the other project. And he has he's got a trucking company that hauls for a couple different construction companies. They just move material for him. And he suggested, well, I could do it cheaper than the FAA, which is absolutely true. As soon as you get the FAA involved, you get, thousands of dollars of engineering. I mean, it just goes to a whole other level. And so he put together a proposal. Well, if I build the infrastructure for 4 T hangars, then I will get a reduced lease cost for my hangar over the course of the 20 years. So that's in the works right now, and that just got approved by the airport board. Still has to be approved by the cities, but so he's willing to make that private investment into the Auburn hangar. Now, when somebody else goes in to build a hangar, he's also gonna get he's gonna get some recovery from that. So they're gonna have to pay him out before they actually, I don't know if you guys know what SOAR assessment used to be like. If the city would build a SOAR line down a new road, every person tying into that would pay a SOAR assessment until the cost was recovered. CMP does the same thing. If they want to run power lines, they'll run 5 poles, and anybody who ties into it has to pay back, their portion of it. So it's kind of the same thing.
So who started by, you guys are way ahead of us, Lewiston, Auburn, you have a lot of infrastructure there. We just have the T hangars and the one big box is all we have, correct?
Yeah.
And the FAR building. It's like getting the ball rolling. It's like, it seems like it's a chicken and the egg thing, getting more traffic. You don't get more traffic until you have the box, the hangars, and you don't have the hangars until you get more traffic. You don't remember, you weren't there that far back though, but even this last, the 10 unit T hangar, like who started that who pushed that, who got that going?
That was a previous airport manager. He had a contract with an engineering firm, and that engineering firm pushed the project forward.
Oh, okay.
They did all the legwork, all the FAA grant writing and design engineering. And then it wasn't what the airport actually needed, so we had to.
Oh, okay, so you're talking about
and
earlier.
change, yes. I gotta say that by building the building with FAA funds, literally doubled the cost of the hangars. I mean, double. We're like 3.7 million for 10 units. The engineering alone was $600,000.
That's the 3.7, that's the FAA with the FAA on board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we not surprised?
Well, that's why, to me, in my opinion, if you get the infrastructure in, get the taxiways in and all that stuff, and the private industry do it, it's more, and I say private, it could be the town, it could be the state. I know how it worked. It was 80 from the federal, 10 from the state, and 10 from the municipality. But me being a citizen of city of Lewiston, I'm very conservative, and I don't, tax dollars, tax dollars. City of Lewiston had to come up with $80,000 to make this project go. And as soon as I heard that number, it's like, okay, why are these taxpayers paying $80,000 for these rich people to put their airplanes in a hangar, right? Let them leave it outside or don't come. I seriously had to resolve that within my own conscience. And basically, if you really run the numbers, the payback on that hangar is way better than any stock market could give you, or any fund could give you. It's like 25-30%, I don't know exactly the numbers, on return on investment. So it allows the airport to be more self-sufficient, and maybe I think it's under a 5-year payback. So in under 5 years, that'll be, I don't know, $500 a unit times 10, that goes right into the airport operating budget, which now they're not going to the town for that $80,000 anymore, you know, so, that's big. It doesn't look good when you talk about it, but
Mhm.
when you actually look at the numbers, it's a good investment.
Mark, did you have something to say? No, sorry. Anybody else wanna input? What do you, Harold? No?
I'd just like to say a couple things.
Sure.
And I'm not finding fault, but I was up, this was in March, and the airport had been noted shut for several days due to snow. And the NOTAM was lifted that afternoon. I pulled Navajo out, I was getting ready to fuel it. And a little Eclipse 500 came in. But the runway had been plowed, but most of the taxiway hadn't. So he kind of came in and looked around, didn't know where to go. And the little bit that wasn't plowed, I was in with the tug and the Navajo. So he shuts down. I waved him over and he's like, I need to get fuel. But there was no way he could get fuel because he couldn't get close to the fuel farm. And I said, well, here, when I finish, I'll put mine away, and then tug, I can get you over close enough that you can get fuel. And he had his daughter with him, who was about 10 or 12, and they'd come from Idaho. And I said, she need the bathroom. Yeah. I'm like, do you know the code? No, I don't know the code. And the whole thing, he just was sort of, and he'd been here before, but it struck me how the code's not on the AWAS. There's no note of it anywhere. Then when you call the number on the website, you know, the town office is open from 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday. I mean, there's no after hours number, there's no emergency number, there's no anything. And then as far as fuel, you have Keith's cell phone number and the town office, and that's it. So it's, for anybody coming here who doesn't know the area, doesn't know the airport and land, there's just nothing there for them. And I think a few changes could be made that would make that a lot better for transients. The other thing is, I personally know 10 people. If there were 10 T hangers tomorrow, all of it for 4,500 a month, they'd be gone. It's so late. And well, I'd take 2 of them. And there are probably honestly 20 would be gone within a week. I've met so many pilots over the last few years that are landing at Lewiston, renting cars, driving up. They're landing at Bethel, landing at Berlin, because there's nothing up here for them. And I've also been talking to people at Arteris, and they would love to see some development. They'd love to see, you know, a limited charter operation that could bring people here, but it's the same thing. There's no infrastructure. And they would run a shuttle back and forth, they would bend over backwards, but and I'm not picking on you, Joe, at all, it's not your fault, but just the times the airport's been open closed for days. And you can't get in, you can't get out. And, you know, I've called the other surrounding small airports like Millinocket, Bethel, Berlin, and they're plowed the next morning. And I know Rangeley's really short on manpower, but the Rangeley Airport gets treated as a kind of a stepchild, where these other municipalities, granted, they're bigger than Rangeley, some not much bigger, but they're bigger. But they prioritize the airport on the same level as roads and other things. School getting plowed, it's just as important. It's not, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. So I just think there's some improvements to be made, but obviously, if there were more hangars, there'd be more pilots, there'd be more activity, and the town would see some more economic input or impact because of that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah. John, but,
The 10 pack of T hangers that are there now, people that didn't want to leave their plane out on the apron on a tie down, they wanted to hang. They got together, formed a group, got a lease, raised the money. Each of the 10 people contributed, and they built it. And if they're profitable, it seems like that's a good way to go. You know, somebody could the buy-in for one for themselves and get a spare to lease out, you know, and, maybe end up and with his for free if there's that kind of money going around.
The big difference is when those were built, the cost was about 60,000 a T hanger. Now it's almost 200,000. At 60, it made sense all day long. The cost of, you know, again, I'm 59 years old. I'll probably fly another 20 years. For me to spend almost 200,000 on a T hanger, that in 20 years I don't own anymore because it's on leased land, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I couldn't build a second one at least. Nobody's gonna pay $2,000 a month for a T hanger. You know, you $500-600 a month is pretty much top for most people who want to rent. And I think the town needs to look at the impact, the economic impact, more than we spend 100,000, we get X% return. There's businesses here, people who buy houses pay taxes. There's so much more than just the rent of the hangar and the return on investment for the town. But no, I hear what you say, Mark, but the costs now are triple what they were when this 10 T hangars were built. And there's a big difference.
Sorry.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have one more thing to add.
Sure.
Are you guys familiar with Pal's Skyhope?
I'm
It's Angel Flights.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically what that organization does is they fly patients from remote areas to, you know, Boston or Springfield or whatever. And I know this area was kind of trying to be developed. We've gotten a few out of Carrabassett now. And he already is flying. I mean, Angel Flights, yeah. So, and this is no cost to the patient. I mean, and this is not like life flight where there's an injury or they need medical attention. This is going to appointments and stuff like that. So being a rural area, I mean, that's a benefit that you really can't put dollars and cents on. And the more traffic you have here, the more pilots you would have to fill those needs.
The Angel Flight pilots pay everything themselves? Yeah,
It's all, yeah.
did not know.
I guess I got a question about putting all these pieces together. So Joe, in the past, you've put out an email requesting individuals who are interested in investing. There's also the option of FAA funding with 80-10-10 option. The way I understood it is that the FAA funds are better for not necessarily using for the hangar, but for doing the pavement work and for the site work and things like that. Going forward, getting serious individuals that are willing to put their money down and getting the ball rolling, what is the plan for that? I mean, is it something that we could reach out to those individuals and say, you know, where does this stand? Find out exactly, if we're looking at a 10-pack, how many of those would be sold, and then the delta of the others, let's say there's 4 that's still available for rent or something like that, whether or not it's something that would be paid for by the income of the rent. So I actually crunched some numbers out here. Is there some way to figure that out?
Well, I think the first step you'd want to take is, as a commission, you'd want to advise that that's what we do, right? You would advise me to look into that. So there'd be a formal step to begin that process and then start looking into it. And then it would be, you know, if you deem it to be, we deem it to be the right direction forward, then it becomes a policy question, and we go to the board to look for funding, move it forward.
I think it's a great idea. Thoughts on that?
It's a short building season. If you want to get started, we need to get going. Whether we do it this year or next year, but it's not gonna happen if we don't move for it.
Well, I'm all for it. It seems like we always get to this point and when nothing ever happens after this, so.
Well, we never really had a group of names. I mean, I've only been here now 2 years, but have we ever had a list of names before like we have now?
No, but I haven't seen the list of names, really.
No, I guess Joe has it, right?
Yeah, there's some folks that have
Mark?
Could you put something on the website on airport that said, you know, we have, space available at the airport for hangars. These folks here have expressed an interest. If there's any others that wanna communicate with them and see if they got, can come up with a plan to build them.
You took it on the town website, you mean, or the
You
commission?
know, that
website,
way
town
they
website?
could connect with each other and, maybe that would get the ball rolling.
So,
Yeah,
So it sounds like we're interested in a proposal basically for private folks that wanna build a 10-pack, it sounds like.
I think a 10-pack, like Edmund said, would probably go in a heartbeat. And if we got investors on a list with realistic numbers, maybe use that 80% 10-10 for the site work. Put a plan together and see who's interested in that, and if we end up short on investors, how much would it cost the town? How much could the town make back in the form of maybe making it making one of those hangars an airport manager hangar or an airport admin hangar, renting it out maybe to an FBO, maybe in possibility in the future, maybe getting a fuel truck of our own. If we had somebody up there on a regular basis, have them dispensing fuel, have this thing grow into something that would be a true asset to the town. So I guess, yeah, if I could put a motion forward to see how many people are truly interested in becoming investors, maybe also an alternative list for people who are truly interested in renting. Off the top of my head, I do know of another individual who's got his airplane out there on the ramp right now that would probably be interested in renting a hangar as well. And get this list together and see what it would cost the town, if anything.
can you put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I guess so. I make a motion to have the airport manager / town manager check into a feasibility study for the construction of a new 10-pack hangar at the airport.
Can you add
Second
something?
that.
Can you add something in there about like using the website to advertise?
Well, that's his,
Is that
that's
part-
his job to do, yeah.
Yep, I think that would fall in.
Okay, I think that would fall into it.
So motion and a second,
Have a second? All in favor?
right?
That's not my second, but
I
will say.
All right, thank you. All right, so it's a step. And like I said, I'm not looking to build a major airport up there, not even in Lewiston, Auburn, but something that's a little bit more, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Eddie.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie. That's, more user-friendly up there, like you said, to the transients and anybody really, I mean, it's a nice facility. We should be proud of it and use it in a more professional manner. I don't know.
I mean, I've been coming up here since I was a little boy, and my dad's been coming up here since he was a boy. And, we knew Steve Bean really well, and I just remember how vibrant the airport was.
Mhm.
The ramp was full of airplanes.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
now there's one lonely little airplane tied out front, weeds growing up through the pavement.
Yeah. They are doing the cracks this summer
Mhm.
and the striping, but yeah, we miss Steve. So are we all good with that then? Move on. I mean, if you guys want to hang around, I'm gonna talk about bylaws.
I got a 2-hour drive.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Come back and score.
Okay, thank you.
So,
All right, so public, we didn't do the review of the meeting minutes from last meeting. You were here last meeting, right?
I was, yes, so therefore I review of the minutes, we can adopt the minutes. So make a motion, we adopt the minutes of last meeting of April 28th, 2025.
And I'll second.
I'll take your word for it.
All in favor?
In favor?
Public to speak on any non-agenda item?
There was somebody waiting in Zoom land.
There's nobody waiting in Zoom land. The consultant, unfortunately, I think has the wrong link. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, Scott said he texted me saying that he was out there.
Oh, I don't know
Yes.
what's going on.
There doesn't appear to be
There's
anybody.
nobody there.
Maybe he's on the wrong link, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, okay.
All right, correspondence, do we have any correspondence to be read into the record? Reports of the commission, that's us, we have no reports. Reports of the airport manager?
I have at least one thing to tell you about. This Friday, there will be a main DOT pavement inspection done by a consultant that they've hired. They're doing this at airports all over the state. So they're basically going to come in and do an assessment of current conditions of the asphalt. So that's happening Friday morning. There's a notice in place for that. Somebody 5 miles out, they'll get off the runway if they happen to be on it. So that is a real thing. We know that they're there. The results of that will come out in the fall, and they'll come through main DOT. So they're going to get a snapshot pre-sealing, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. They're going to do crack sealing, as you mentioned, striping. This will get a good snapshot. They do inspect it periodically anyway, but this is a more involved. They're going to spend 3-4 hours there and really get into the current conditions. So that helps the DOT determine where they are going to focus resources going forward. I have spoken with the owner of the facility at the end of the runway on the Loon Lake side about the trees. I've got them marked. He's looked at them. He is requesting compensation for those, which I didn't expect, but I'm working with him on that. So that's the update on that. And I am aware, as we talked about in the last meeting, there's a tie down that's come up with the frost that should have a mark at least on an cone or something else so folks can see that it's there. And I've seen it, it's a few inches proud of the pavement. We'll get that fixed permanently.
How about the airport, wasn't there an airplane up there that we were trying to?
So I called that number, John got me the number, and somebody picked up, but there was noise on the other end. There wasn't a person there. So I have not made connection with that.
In the seat back pocket, there is a registration. I took a picture of it and I'll email it to you.
Okay. Good.
So we can do that too. So
It may have just been a bad connection that day when I called, and I can try calling again, see if I can contact that person.
okay, I was wondering how that went. So I saved that email, that information.
I attempted to contact them, but no
Okay.
response. I'll try again. That's all I have.
Okay. Which brings us to old business, my favorite, the airport commission bylaws.
So what you have is the latest version of the board of selectmen reviewed on the 19th. I mean, excuse me, the last meeting. They had some discussion about what you had included at your last meeting, and as I recall, most of that was abandoned. So they kind of struck that out. This is really just an update for you folks. So you know where it's at. They're gonna have a second reading, I believe, on the 19th.
Okay, so then that'll be the final.
I believe so. I believe so. I think they've done the first reading.
No, I've got a little bit something to add to that.
Yeah, sure, go.
I'll be honest, what's been recreated here is not at all what I think the board had in mind when we all agreed to rewrite the bylaws. I wish I didn't have to say these words, but apparently it needs to be said. But over a year ago, I want to say it was about 16 months ago, Mark Beauregard, when you were on the board, made a motion to revamp the bylaws, and I seconded it, thinking that we could make a better document. But had I known it was going to come to a document like this, where people who aren't on the board are making revisions to it, when we're the ones that actually have to sign it, I think it's wrong. I seconded it, thinking we could make a better document. Had I known it was gonna come to this, I would not have seconded it. I think Mark's idea of revamping the bylaws was different than mine. This has been a lot of work. We made our commission, Jim and I, for the subcommittee for revamping the bylaws, and it's been very frustrating. Jim got so frustrated with it that he exited the subcommittee. When I talked to Jim Janassi about it, he said that there are bylaws to make. They're ours to make. And I proceeded with making our bylaws. So I really don't blame Jim Ferrara for being frustrated with the completion of these bylaws. It's very frustrating to get input from others when in fact there are bylaws. We should be the ones making them. For a while there, in the first reading, Tracy and I worked together on making a document that catered to the whims of the others who are not on the board any longer, and have written in what they thought would be a good addition to it. Maybe some of those things are. I love changing the name. It's a bit of a mouthful, but yes, you're right, that should be done. But the fact is, it should be made by people who are on the board. And that document that Tracy and I wrote up, I was willing to sign that one. And then it went for a second reading, and there were
last that you sent in 2 weeks ago.
yeah. And there were concessions in it, but I said, well, if that's all there are, then okay. And then this last meeting, there were even more concessions, which resulted in the creation of this second reading set of bylaws. And between all the crossouts and edits and concessions, I'm even less of a fan. I think that these revised bylaws are less of a quality product than the one we're working on right now. Our existing bylaws were made over 20 years ago. I don't approve or endorse this new product the way that it is. It has far too many bad qualities. These qualities do not embolden the commission, rather they neuter it. And that's why I'm not a fan of it. These are our bylaws to revise. They're not anybody else's. And the way I see this new set of bylaws is the juice is not worth the squeeze. The original document that we're abiding by for now over 20 years or something to that effect, December 1st of 1997 is when that was adopted, I think is a better document. We voted to revise the document. We can also vote to keep the old one in place until we end up with a better document. It's our right as a commission. It's our document to make, it's our document to sign. We have a functioning set of bylaws, albeit they are antiquated, but the updates can be done line by line if we choose. As the Airport Commission Bylaw Committee Chairman, I make a motion to abandon the pursuit of writing new bylaws and stay with the old ones. Do I have a second?
Second that, I put it on the table for discussion.
Okay, I have a second. Motion and a second. So let's discuss. So until, my only thing is what you said, we sent back to Tracy 2 weeks ago, I thought was pretty good. Like you said, not great, but I thought it was a lot better than the original bylaws. There's a couple of things I voiced. I sent an email to all of us about a couple of things that I did not agree with, and I still don't agree with. And I wouldn't vote in favor of the new ones, but I wouldn't vote to go back to the old ones either. So that's where I stand.
Well, we have to operate under one set of bylaws.
Right. I
And
mean,
if we haven't adopted the new ones, we still continue under the old
on the
ones.
old ones.
But just looking at the strikeouts, that's really what we were looking for, was the language in the strikeouts. It doesn't meet our needs. I'm good with doing away with them. And I'm sorry you guys put this much time into it. To have it come down to this.
So what was the motion?
I made a motion. How did I phrase it?
Joe can read it back.
To abandon the new bylaws for the old ones.
And it has a second.
All in favor?
All in favor? And I don't do that lightly either, you know, it's a lot of work and like he said, it went just a little bit too far and I'm not gonna get all the details here, but and no, you know, no hard feelings, but that's our feeling. All right. Come back to talk about it some more some other time. New business, runway crack sealing engineering contract approval.
I'm looking for your blessing on this document. It's quite lengthy, and I don't expect you to read the whole thing, but it's a proposed contract between the town and a consultant for engineering and construction phase services for the crack sealing and striping at the airport. This has been out to bid. We talked about it at your last meeting. You recommended accepting that bid, which the board has done. Now we need a private contract for the engineering portion of it, which I'll bring to them at their next meeting. I was just looking for your blessing on that. So how this fee works is there's an IFE process, which is an independent fee estimate. So the engineer works that up, they keep it to themselves, but they send me the scope. I send the scope to a second engineer basically, and they go through it and say, we think it's gonna cost this. I get it back, and then I request the proposal from our consultant engineer, all the steps there. And then they've asked me a threshold. Basically, they can be 10% above or below what the independent engineers come up with, and they were in this case. They were within that, and we can, because of that, we can accept it or negotiate, but I didn't see a lot of room there to negotiate. We were comfortably within the parameters. So what I've done is sent that IFE and all the documents to FAA. The only thing pending on this is us signing this contract, which I need authority from the board to do. But I would like I'd like you to advise me to do it or approve this. The total negotiated price $65,157, and this covers everything that's been done to date, and it also covers the on-site portion of it. You know, the resident inspector that will be here when the work is going on. In July, hopefully in July is when this happens. And then the as-built and so forth. Need a lot of as-built, crack sealing and striping, but you know they'll still meet the requirements. You can see the breakdown there of the amounts: direct labor, overhead, fixed profit. This all fits within the IFE. I didn't give you the IFE. Think of that before. You'll have to take my word for it that it's within those items. There'll be another one similar to this. You actually saw the other one a month or two ago for the taxi lane and apron work. Same process there. You know if you have any questions on that.
This is just the engineering work, or is this the entire project?
Yeah, the entire project is about 201,000. The construction portion of it. That's what last meeting. This is in addition to that. So
Okay.
out the door.
I did.
266 or something like that. This is
And that's,
BIL, you know, AIP funds.
and that's for July completion.
Hopefully they're gonna start and complete it in July. It's about a 2-week project. They have all the necessary apparatus for your traffic control and so forth. And no TAMs, they'll handle all that stuff when they get to construction. This will not include the section where that die down is raised right now, that alligator crack area. We're not going to crack seal that. That is part of the taxi lane reconstruction project. It's separate from this. So it doesn't make any sense financially to put any money into that section. It's DOA, as I refer to it. It's no good in terms of putting money into it. So I'm familiar with, you know, the condition. We got to work towards getting that corrected. It takes As Mr. Blaze pointed out, a long time to get through the FAA process. There's a lot of steps involved.
So you're looking for a motion to,
I recommend approval of this contract.
I'll move that. So moved.
have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
In favor.
Yeah, it's unanimous.
All right, so we already did the hangar development workshop, all the announcements, next meeting date.
Can I go back to one thing under
Sure.
new, we don't have another new business. You brought up that the, getting into the SRE buildings, getting fuel, getting information. Can we get that on the website? Can we improve that somehow?
Hmm.
How can we do that? Because that really is important.
It is important, and I didn't realize it was not on there. I thought it was.
Used to be on the
Yeah, last
AWAS.
time,
Yeah.
it's been a while, I was checking, but last time I checked, it was, so I made a note to correct that. Do you want that code on the website?
I don't see why not. I mean, who's using the website? You gotta get through a gate to get to it anyway.
I liked at Kitty Hawk when I was there visiting, they have at their gate, they have Squawk, Squawk VFR. And that's the code, 1200. I think it's pretty cool.
Ours could be around .8.
But,
How
Yeah.
difficult is it to change the code? It seems to me that a lot of airports have that code, and I think it's because it's the default of the key set.
2, 4, and 3.
Yeah, I see it in a lot of airports. So if it's not that hard to change it, we could do, VFR squawk code.
Well,
That would be,
it's only 3 buttons.
I know.
oh, it's only 3 buttons.
Yeah, but having it in code so that only authorized people would gain access rather than if it was on the website, anybody could gain access, I think is where I'm going with that. So, and I deem a pilot flying in worthy of the code, and reasonable security therein would mean having it airplane lingo, so Squawk VFR would be.
Well, that's just to get through the gate. Yeah.
Well, you could have it over
Oh,
the.
no, I'm just to
keypad.
the SRE building.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's a zero on it.
what is it?
Pad, there's no zero on that pad, 1 through 5.
Oh,
Oh, son
really?
of a gun, you're right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
All right.
I
So
mean,
we just put it-
it's fine where it is, but if you don't know it, you're never gonna know.
Right.
Or-
Good point.
or we could just say Unicom, which is the same as the gate code.
Yeah,
It's a 0 too, though. There's a 0.
Oh, and there's no 8, there's 1 through 5. Yeah.
Wait,
ay, ay, ay.
oh, yeah, there's no 0, it's an 8, right?
Well, how about for the time being, we should put it back on the AWAS?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I made a note.
And the
I don't know how
website,
it
make
came
sure
from.
that, I mean, there's a lot of people who use the airport, who use the airport,
Right.
they have that information.
so you can do that, Joe?
And you being up there to help them is much appreciated by the flying community, you know.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
appreciate it. All right, so, that should be it. Next meeting, we're not doing, Memorial Day weekend, or the weekend after that, right? We're going right to June now, is that correct?
Yep,
So when is that one? June
30th, according to.
June 30th. All the way to the bottom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second. Move it, second it, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
How long,